When the Navy deliberately sank old tanks into the ocean decades ago, it was deemed a strategic move for marine habitats. Fishermen and divers in the area spoke of an eerie tranquility around the underwater graveyard, with some swearing they felt a presence. As time passed, these tales became local legends. Then, a team of divers made a discovery that changed everything. Jacob couldn't believe his eyes, so he blinked a few times to make sure that he was seeing this clearly. This was impossible. It had to be a trick of the water. But the longer he looked at it, the more certain he became that this was real. He was completely shocked, and he quickly signaled the other diver, Maria, to come over to the tank and take a look. Would she see the same thing? Only moments later, he saw the shock on her face as soon as she realized what they had found. How was this even possible? As soon as they got to the surface, Maria called out, "What the hell was that?" Jacob replied, "I don't know, but we have to do something. We can't just pretend that we didn't see it, right?" To his surprise, Maria wanted to do exactly that. "I don't care what you do, Jacob, but I'm not getting involved. It's only going to cause trouble." Despite her objection, Jacob knew he needed to take action, and if no one wanted to back him up, he'd have to do it himself. He was willing to take the risk. But what had they found in those tanks that was so shocking? Why did it scare Maria so much? And what would happen next? Jacob had only recently gotten into diving, and he was exploring a new area during a trip with his friend Maria. He'd heard of the tanks being dumped in this part of the ocean before, and he was planning to find them and take a look. There were many stories going around about these tanks, but Jacob always assumed they were made up. Either way, he wanted to see them with his own eyes. In reality, he had no idea what was waiting for him. Perhaps, if he had known, he might have decided not to look for the tanks at all. He and Maria had been diving around in this area for a few days now, looking for them, but they had seen nothing interesting yet. It wasn't too late to back out yet. But they were way too curious, and besides, they weren't aware of the risks yet. From the online research Jacob had done, he knew where the tanks had been dumped approximately, but he didn't have the exact coordinates or anything like that. He felt like he and Maria had already searched the entire area, and they were close to giving up. That morning, they decided to give it one more try, and even if they didn't find anything, they would leave the next day. Jacob really hoped that they would at least find something, an indication that the tanks had been there at some point. He didn't expect to make a life-changing discovery, especially seeing that the tanks had been underwater for so long already. But he just wanted to see them with his own eyes. Little did he know that his life was, in fact, about to change. They took the boat into the ocean and anchored it. "Didn't we already check this area?" Maria asked, but Jacob shrugged. "It can't hurt to try again, am I right?" They put on their diving gear and jumped into the water, not thinking anything would happen. Both of them dove deeper and deeper until they almost got to the bottom. And then Jacob saw something. It was some kind of dark shadow on the bottom of the ocean. He thought it was just a huge rock at first, but once he got closer, his eyes widened in shock. It was a tank. "Oh my God! I found them! They're real!" he thought to himself, as he noticed a few more of them in the distance. He couldn't believe that he had actually found them. He called Maria over, and once she saw what he had found, she was just as excited to see the tanks as him. Through hand signals, they communicated that they would split up and both take a closer look at different tanks. None of them expected that, in the next hour, they would make an absolutely horrifying discovery. Jacob and Maria swam closer to the tanks, examining the algae-covered surfaces. The tanks looked ancient, covered in a thick layer of marine growth. Jacob gently brushed away some algae, revealing the rusty metal underneath. "Look at this," he signaled to Maria, pointing to a barely visible number on the side. Maria nodded, her eyes wide with curiosity. They could feel the weight of history in the water around them, each tank holding secrets from the past. They noticed several weird-looking fish swimming around the tanks. The fish had unusual colors and patterns, unlike anything they had seen before. One fish, in particular, had bright blue spots and long, flowing fins. Maria pointed at it, her expression a mix of wonder and confusion. "What kind of fish is that?" she wondered aloud. Jacob shrugged, equally puzzled. These tanks had become a home for strange, mysterious creatures, adding to the eerie atmosphere of the underwater graveyard. Most tanks were sealed, but Jacob managed to pry one open. He used a crowbar to leverage the rusty hatch, grunting with effort. The metal groaned in protest, then finally gave way with a loud creak. "Got it!" Jacob shouted through his mouthpiece. Maria swam closer, her eyes wide with anticipation. The hatch slowly swung open, revealing the dark, murky interior of the tank. They exchanged a look, both eager and nervous about what they might find inside. A strange current of water flowed from the opening Jacob created. It was as if the tank had been holding back the ocean itself. The water around them seemed to shift, carrying a slight chill. Jacob felt the current tug at his wetsuit, almost pulling him toward the tank. "Do you feel that?" Maria asked, her voice crackling over the comms. Jacob nodded, his heart pounding. This wasn't just an old tank. It was something much more intriguing. They exchanged excited looks, ready to explore the newly opened tank. Jacob took a deep breath, steadying his nerves, and gestured for Maria to follow. "Let's see what's inside," he said, his voice trembling slightly with anticipation. Maria nodded, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. Together, they approached the tank's entrance, their flashlights cutting through the murky water. The unknown lay just beyond the hatch, and both divers felt a mix of fear and excitement as they prepared to dive in. Jacob dove inside the open tank, heart pounding with anticipation. The darkness swallowed him as he squeezed through the narrow entrance. His flashlight flickered, illuminating the eerie interior. Rusted metal and debris floated around him, remnants of a bygone era. "This is incredible," he thought, pushing deeper into the tank. His breath quickened, both from the exertion and the thrill of discovery. He wondered what secrets this old relic held, and what he might find hidden within its depths. Inside, he found something absolutely shocking, and called Maria over. "Maria, you have to see this!" he shouted through his comms, his voice shaking. His flashlight beam settled on a large, strange object nestled in the corner of the tank. It looked out of place, almost alien. Maria swam over, her eyes wide with curiosity. As she joined Jacob, her expression quickly changed from curiosity to shock. Whatever they had found, it was beyond anything they had ever imagined. Maria's eyes widened in disbelief when she saw what Jacob had found. "What is that?" she whispered, unable to tear her gaze away. The object was unlike anything they had ever seen. Metallic, intricate, and completely out of place. It seemed to hum with an unnatural energy, casting an eerie glow in the murky water. "We need to document this," Jacob said, his voice firm. Maria nodded, still in shock. They knew this discovery could change everything. They quickly resurfaced, still reeling from their discovery. Breaking the surface, they ripped off their masks, gasping for air. "Did we really just see that?" Maria asked, her voice trembling. Jacob nodded, his mind racing. "We need to figure out what it is," he replied, trying to stay calm. The boat rocked gently beneath them as they clambered aboard, both lost in thought. Whatever they had found, it was clear that their simple dive had turned into something much bigger. They agreed to discuss their next steps once back on the boat. "We can't ignore this," Jacob insisted, his eyes filled with determination. Maria, still shaken, nodded reluctantly. "But we have to be careful," she warned. They dried off and sat down, their minds buzzing with possibilities. "We need more information before we decide anything," Maria said finally. Jacob agreed, but he knew deep down that they were on the brink of something huge, and he couldn't wait to uncover the truth. Above water, Jacob and Maria discussed their next move. "We can't just let this go," Jacob said, pacing the deck. "This could be groundbreaking." Maria shook her head, worry etched on her face. "It's too dangerous, Jacob. We don't know what we're dealing with." He paused, looking at her earnestly. "We have to find out. We can't just walk away." Maria sighed, knowing he was right, but fearing what their discovery might unleash. Maria insisted the discovery was too dangerous to expose. "What if it's military?" she argued. "We could be putting ourselves at risk." Jacob frowned, understanding her concern, but feeling the pull of the mystery. "We'll be careful," he promised, "but we can't ignore it." Maria crossed her arms, unconvinced. "Sometimes things are hidden for a reason," she said softly. Jacob knew she was scared, but he couldn't shake the feeling that they were onto something important. Jacob, determined to take action, decided to document the finding. "I'll get my camera," he said, heading to the boat's cabin. Maria watched him go, her mind racing with fears and doubts. She knew Jacob was right about needing proof, but the potential dangers loomed large in her mind. When he returned, camera in hand, he gave her a reassuring smile. "We'll be quick and careful," he said. Maria nodded, hoping for the best. Maria refused to get involved, fearing the consequences. "I'm sorry, Jacob. I just can't," she said, her voice shaking. "It's too risky." Jacob's face fell, but he nodded. "I understand," he replied, though disappointment tinged his voice. "I have to do this, though." Maria looked away, tears in her eyes. "Just be careful," she whispered. Jacob squeezed her hand briefly before turning back to the task at hand, resolute in his decision to uncover the truth. Jacob resolved to pursue the truth, regardless of the risks. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his decision. "I'll be back soon," he said, giving Maria a final look. She nodded, still worried, but respecting his determination. With a determined stride, Jacob gathered his equipment and prepared to dive again. The answers he sought were down there, waiting to be uncovered, and he was ready to face whatever dangers lay ahead to reveal them. Jacob retrieved his camera from the boat and returned to the tanks. His heart raced with a mix of excitement and fear. He knew documenting their find was crucial. "I'll be quick," he reassured himself. With the camera securely fastened, he dove back into the water, the eerie silence of the depths enveloping him. The tanks loomed ahead, and he swam faster, eager to capture the mysterious object they had discovered. This was his chance to get the proof they needed. He took several pictures of the shocking discovery inside the tank. Each flash illuminated the strange metallic object, highlighting its bizarre details. Jacob moved carefully, making sure to capture every angle. "This has to be enough," he thought, snapping one last photo. The object seemed almost otherworldly, and Jacob felt a chill run down his spine. He knew these images would raise more questions than answers, but it was a start. He had what he needed. The surreal sight made him question the reality of what he had found. Floating there, surrounded by the remnants of the past, Jacob couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just a sunken tank. "What is this thing?" he wondered, staring at the strange object. It didn't belong here, that much was clear. As he floated in the eerie silence, he realized they had stumbled upon something truly extraordinary and potentially dangerous. After documenting everything, Jacob resurfaced and returned to shore. Climbing back onto the boat, he felt a mix of relief and anxiety. "Got the pictures," he said to Maria, who waited anxiously. She sighed, both worried and curious. They quickly secured their gear and headed back to the mainland, the weight of their discovery heavy on their minds. Jacob knew the real work was just beginning. They needed answers, and he was determined to find them. Back at the apartment, he began researching his discovery online. Jacob uploaded the photos to his computer, each image more puzzling than the last. He scoured forums, databases, and any resource he could find. "There has to be something about this," he muttered, typing furiously. Maria watched from the couch, still uneasy. Hours passed, but Jacob wouldn't stop. He needed to understand what they had found, and the internet was his only hope of getting some answers. Jacob posted one of the photos on an online forum, seeking answers. "Anyone seen anything like this before?" he typed, attaching the image. He sat back, hoping the collective knowledge of the internet could shed some light on their mysterious find. Maria glanced over his shoulder, her anxiety evident. "Do you think this will help?" she asked. Jacob nodded, though uncertainty gnawed at him. "It's a start," he said, watching the post go live. The photo quickly received numerous comments, sparking intense discussion. "Looks like some kind of alien tech," one user speculated. Another wrote, "Could be an old government experiment." Jacob refreshed the page constantly, amazed at the flood of responses. Some commenters were skeptical, while others seemed genuinely intrigued. Maria leaned in, reading the comments with wide eyes. "People are really interested in this," she said. Jacob nodded, feeling a mixture of excitement and apprehension. An hour later, the photo mysteriously disappeared from the forum. "What the—" Jacob muttered, refreshing the page again. It was gone. All the comments. The post itself. Everything had vanished without a trace. "Did you delete it?" Maria asked, confused. Jacob shook his head, his face pale. "No, someone else did." A cold shiver ran down his spine. This wasn't just an innocent mystery anymore. Someone didn't want them digging into this discovery. Jacob realized someone wanted to keep this discovery a secret. "This can't be a coincidence," he said, turning to Maria. "There's more to this than we thought." Maria nodded, her fear growing. "What should we do?" she asked. Jacob's mind raced, trying to make sense of the situation. "We need to be careful," he replied. "But we also need to find out why this is so important." The stakes had just been raised, and they were in deeper than ever. This strange event only fueled his determination to uncover the truth. "We can't stop now," Jacob said, his jaw set in a determined line. "If they're trying to hide something, it means we're onto something big." Maria looked at him, concern etched on her face, but she nodded. "All right," she said, "but we have to be smart about this." Jacob agreed, already planning their next move. The mystery was deeper than they'd imagined, and he was ready to face whatever came next. Jacob and Maria decided to leave the area, sensing growing danger. "We can't stay here," Jacob said, packing their things hurriedly. "It's too risky." Maria agreed, her face pale with worry. They loaded their gear into the car, glancing nervously around.
Also, if you have not done so already, please subscribe to our channel and click that notification bell to get inspired by these real-life stories every day. Now, back to the story.
As they drove away, the weight of their discovery pressed heavily on their minds. "Where do we go now?" Maria asked. Jacob didn't have an answer. but he knew they needed to be somewhere safe to figure out their next steps. Upon arriving home, police officers appeared at Jacob's door. The knock was firm and authoritative. "Mr. Jacob, we need to speak with you," one of them said. Jacob's heart sank. Maria's eyes widened in fear. "What's this about?" Jacob asked, trying to stay calm. The officers exchanged a glance, but offered no explanation. "Please come with us," the officer repeated. The sense of dread deepened, and Jacob knew this was about their discovery. Without explanation, they took Jacob to the police station. The ride was tense, silence hanging heavily in the air. Jacob's mind raced, trying to piece together what was happening. The officers remained stoic, offering no clues. When they arrived, Jacob was led through a series of corridors, his anxiety growing with each step. "What is this all about?" he asked again, but no one answered. He was left alone in a small room, waiting for whatever came next. Maria watched helplessly as Jacob was led away by the officers. She felt a mix of fear and frustration. "I should go with him," she thought, but knew it wasn't an option. She stood on the porch, watching the police car disappear down the street. "Please be okay," she whispered, tears in her eyes. With a heavy heart, she returned inside, anxiously waiting for any news. The silence of the house felt oppressive, amplifying her worry. At the station, Jacob anxiously awaited an explanation for his arrest. He sat in the small, dimly lit room, his mind racing. "Why am I here?" he muttered, frustration bubbling up. Time seemed to stretch endlessly. The door finally opened, and a stern-looking officer stepped in. "Mr. Jacob, you're here because of your recent activities," he said, his tone serious. Jacob's heart pounded. This was about the tanks. He braced himself for what was to come. In the interrogation room, a stern Navy officer confronted Jacob. "Do you know why you're here?" the officer demanded, his voice cold and authoritative. Jacob shook his head, trying to stay calm. "No, I don't," he replied. The officer leaned in, his eyes narrowing. "It's about the photos you posted," he said. Jacob's heart sank. He knew this was serious. The officer's presence was intimidating, and Jacob realized the gravity of the situation he was in. The officer warned Jacob against sharing any information about his discovery. "What you've stumbled upon is highly classified," he said, his tone leaving no room for argument. "If you share anything, there will be severe consequences." Jacob swallowed hard, fear creeping in. "I understand," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. The officer nodded, his expression stern. "Good. This is not a joke, Mr. Jacob. You must keep this to yourself, for your own safety." Jacob promised not to post or share anything else, fearing the consequences. "I won't tell anyone," he said, his voice steady but his heart racing. The officer's eyes bore into him, searching for any sign of deceit. "See that you don't," he replied firmly. Jacob nodded, feeling the weight of his promise. He knew he had no choice but to comply, at least for now. The severity of the warning was clear, and he wasn't about to test it. The officer released Jacob, emphasizing the severity of his warning. "Remember what I said?" the officer repeated as Jacob stood up. "This is serious." Jacob nodded, trying to keep his composure. "I understand," he replied. As he walked out of the room, the reality of the situation hit him hard. This wasn't just a simple dive gone wrong. It was something much bigger. He needed to be careful, but he couldn't ignore what they had found. Jacob left the station, determined to continue his investigation discreetly. "I won't let them scare me off," he thought, walking quickly to his car. He knew he had to be smart about his next steps. The truth was out there, and he was more determined than ever to find it. He started planning his next move, knowing he had to tread carefully. The stakes were higher now, but his resolve was stronger. He couldn't let this discovery go unnoticed. Jacob called Maria, recounting the Navy officer's warning. "You won't believe what just happened," he said, his voice shaky. Maria listened intently as he described the interrogation. "They told me not to share anything about our discovery," he explained. Maria's worry was evident in her silence. "This is serious, Jacob," she finally said. Jacob nodded, though she couldn't see him. "I know, but we can't back down now," he replied, determined to continue their investigation. Maria reiterated her concerns, urging Jacob to let it go. "Jacob, this is too dangerous," she said, her voice filled with anxiety. "You heard what they said. We don't know what we're dealing with." Jacob sighed, understanding her fear, but feeling an unyielding need to pursue the truth. "I get it, Maria, but we can't just walk away. This could be important." Maria shook her head, frustrated. "Just promise me you'll be careful," she pleaded. Jacob agreed, but his mind was set. Jacob, now more motivated, decided to expose the truth. "We can't let them scare us off," he thought, determination hardening his resolve. He knew the risks but felt a deep sense of duty to uncover what they had found. He started making plans, considering how to proceed without attracting unwanted attention. "If we're careful, we can do this," he reassured himself. The stakes were higher, but his commitment to the truth was unwavering. He resumed his research, seeking out experts who could help. Jacob spent hours online, reaching out to specialists in marine biology, underwater archaeology, and environmental science. He crafted careful emails, explaining their discovery without revealing too much. "I hope someone takes this seriously," he thought, hitting send on yet another message. The clock ticked on, but Jacob's determination never wavered. He knew he needed allies in this quest, and he was willing to do whatever it took to find them. Determined to act, Jacob contacted an environmentalist organization. He found a reputable group known for investigating underwater anomalies and sent them a detailed message. "This could be a significant find," he wrote, attaching the photos. He explained the context and the potential implications, hoping to pique their interest. "We need your expertise," he concluded. As he hit send, he felt a flicker of hope. With the right support, they might finally uncover the truth behind the mysterious tanks. Jacob shared his findings with the environmentalist organization. He sat in a virtual meeting with several experts, explaining the discovery in detail. "We found these tanks underwater, and there's something strange inside them," he said, showing the photos. The experts listened intently, nodding as he spoke. "This could be significant," one of them said. Jacob felt a wave of relief. They were taking him seriously, and it felt like they were finally making progress. He sent them the photos and explained the significance of his discovery. "These images show something unusual inside the tanks," Jacob wrote in his email. He detailed their dive, the strange current, and the mysterious object they had found. "We believe this could have major environmental and historical implications," he added. As he hit send, he hoped they would see the importance of investigating further. The response was swift, showing their keen interest in the find. The organization quickly mobilized, planning an expedition to the tanks. "We need to investigate this thoroughly," their lead scientist said. They arranged for a team of divers and researchers to join Jacob at the site. "We'll bring the necessary equipment to document and analyze the tanks," another expert assured him. Jacob felt a surge of excitement. This was really happening. They were going to uncover the truth together, and he wasn't alone anymore. They prepared special equipment to investigate the tanks safely. The team gathered underwater cameras, radiation detectors, and protective gear. "We need to be ready for anything," the head researcher said. Jacob watched as they loaded the gear onto their boat, feeling more confident with each passing moment. "We'll be able to get to the bottom of this," one of the divers said, giving Jacob a reassuring smile. The sense of teamwork and purpose was invigorating. Jacob felt hopeful, knowing he had allies in his quest for truth. As the boat headed back to the dive site, he took a deep breath, feeling a weight lift off his shoulders. "We're in this together," he thought, looking at the team around him. The determination in their eyes matched his own. They were ready to face whatever secrets the tanks held. And for the first time in weeks, Jacob felt a glimmer of optimism about the journey ahead. The Environmentalist Agency exposed the Navy's failed radiation experiment. Their detailed report outlined how the tanks were used to cover up unauthorized tests. The findings were shocking, revealing a hidden chapter in military history. News outlets picked up the story, and it spread like wildfire. "This is a major scandal," one journalist remarked. Jacob felt a mix of validation and concern, knowing the truth was finally out, but also fearing the repercussions of such a revelation. The tanks had been used to cover up the unauthorized experiments. The Environmentalist Agency's report detailed how radioactive materials were hidden inside the tanks and dumped into the ocean. "This is a gross violation of environmental and public safety laws," an expert stated. Jacob felt a deep sense of justice as the truth was unveiled. The extent of the cover-up was staggering, and the public deserved to know what had been hidden beneath the waves. Public outrage ensued, drawing attention to the Navy's misconduct. Protests erupted, demanding accountability for those involved in the experiments. "This is unacceptable," one protester shouted. Media coverage intensified, putting pressure on the government to act. Jacob watched the news, feeling a sense of accomplishment. The truth was out, and people were demanding change. The widespread outrage showed that the public would not tolerate such reckless actions, and justice seemed within reach. Jacob was hailed as a hero for bringing the truth to light. Interviews and news articles praised his bravery and determination. "We owe him a debt of gratitude," one commentator said. Jacob felt overwhelmed by the attention, but grateful that their discovery had made a difference. Maria stood by his side, proud of what they had accomplished. Despite the challenges, they had succeeded in exposing a grave injustice. Jacob's role in uncovering the truth was celebrated widely. With widespread support, Jacob's safety was no longer a concern. The public and the media's backing provided a protective shield. "You're not alone in this," Maria reminded him, and he nodded, feeling reassured. The authorities were now focused on addressing the fallout from the scandal. Jacob could finally breathe easier, knowing that his quest for truth had not only succeeded, but also garnered him strong allies. The fight wasn't over, but he was no longer facing it alone. The rogue Navy officers responsible were held accountable for their actions. Investigations revealed their involvement in the unauthorized experiments and subsequent cover-up. "Justice will be served," a spokesperson announced. The officers were stripped of their ranks and faced public condemnation. Jacob watched the news, feeling a sense of closure. The system was taking action, and those who had endangered so many lives were being brought to justice. It was a significant victory for truth and transparency. Legal proceedings began, ensuring they faced the consequences. Courtrooms were filled with lawyers, media, and concerned citizens. "We will not let this go unpunished," the prosecutor declared. Evidence was presented, including the damning reports and Jacob's own testimony. The public followed the case closely, eager for justice. Jacob felt a mix of relief and anxiety, knowing the fight wasn't over, but seeing the wheels of justice turning. The legal system was now holding the responsible parties to account. The environmentalist organization continued to monitor the affected area. Scientists conducted regular dives, collecting samples and data. "We need to ensure this doesn't happen again," one researcher said. The ongoing studies provided crucial insights into the long-term impacts of the Navy's experiments. Jacob often joined the dives, assisting where he could. The collaboration between him and the organization strengthened, united by their commitment to protect the ocean. Their work highlighted the importance of vigilance and accountability. Jacob's life gradually returned to normal after the intense ordeal. The media attention waned, and he found solace in routine. "It's nice to have some peace," Maria said, smiling. They resumed their regular dives, now with a deeper appreciation for the ocean's beauty. Jacob felt a sense of normalcy returning, though the experience had changed him forever. He was more cautious, yet more determined to make a positive impact. The journey had been challenging, but also incredibly rewarding. He remained vigilant, committed to protecting the truth and the environment. "We can't let our guard down," Jacob often reminded himself. He stayed active in environmental advocacy, attending meetings and supporting initiatives. Maria joined him, their bond strengthened by their shared experiences. They knew the importance of staying informed and involved. The memory of their discovery served as a constant reminder of the fragility of truth and the need to protect it. Their dedication to the cause was unwavering. Jacob continued his work, advocating for marine conservation. He gave talks at local schools, sharing his story and emphasizing the importance of protecting the ocean. "Our seas are vital to our planet's health," he explained to a captivated audience. His passion was contagious, inspiring others to take action. Jacob collaborated with various environmental groups, pushing for stricter regulations on marine activities. His efforts were making a real difference, and he felt fulfilled knowing he was contributing to a greater cause. He and Maria strengthened their friendship through shared experiences. The ordeal had brought them closer, and they often reminisced about their adventures. "Remember that dive?" Maria laughed, shaking her head. "How could I forget?" Jacob replied, smiling. They continued to dive together, exploring new sights and enjoying the ocean's wonders. Their bond grew deeper, built on mutual respect and shared memories. Their friendship was a source of strength and comfort, a silver lining from their tumultuous journey. The community rallied around Jacob, inspired by his bravery. Local newspapers featured his story, and neighbors often stopped him to express their admiration. "You're a hero," one elderly man said, shaking Jacob's hand. The support was overwhelming and humbling. Community events were organized to raise awareness about marine conservation, with Jacob often speaking at them. The collective effort made him realize the power of unity. His story had sparked a movement, and he was grateful for the encouragement and solidarity. Jacob's story served as a reminder of the importance of truth and accountability. "We must always seek the truth," he told students during a school visit. His journey was a testament to the impact one person could have by standing up for what's right. The lessons learned from his experience resonated with many, highlighting the need for transparency and integrity. Jacob's determination to uncover the truth had set a powerful example, inspiring others to hold those in power accountable. Life went on, but the memory of their discovery remained a catalyst for change. Jacob and Maria continued their work, knowing the impact of their actions. "We did something good," Maria said, and Jacob nodded in agreement. Their discovery had led to significant changes, both in policy and public awareness. The journey wasn't over, but they faced the future with hope and determination. The legacy of their find continued to inspire and drive positive change in the world.